Well, you know, this has to be a 100 book challenge video, number 21, Paper Boat, Selected Poems of Margaret Atwood, in the hardcover author signed edition, signed first edition. And I'm going to go ahead and virtue signal that I paid full price for this at my favorite independent bookstore here in Western Washington. So this is it. Book number 21, a spectacular, amazing collection of poetry by the genius Margaret Atwood. I don't know, what do we say about poetry? How do you judge poetry? How do you review poetry? I don't know. I do these videos, which I have to admit are book reviews to some degree or another. I'm uncomfortable with that. I work through things on my own. But how do you say this poetry is good, that poetry is bad? It's every bit of writing, right? And you know, I'm the guy who I've talked about, well, I read Doc Savage, I read Perry Rodin, so who the hell am I to judge? There's no snobbery here. That's not all I read. Obviously, I also read poetry by Margaret Atwood and all the other stuff that you've seen me talk about, heard me talk about here, etc. Poetry has been a huge part of my life since I was like 20 years old, and all of a sudden I started writing it. And then I started publishing it. And I've been writing it ever since. And for me, I think the thing that I love about poetry the most is that it is, and again, we're not talking about the sort of old school epic poetry that's like these novel length things. Those were our great forefathers trying to invent something that ended up being the novel. But poetry in particular is a burst of expression. It's not 100,000 words. It's not I'm settling down with this. It's here, maybe, and often in this book too, contained on one page is just this blast of emotional reaction, emotional resonance. It's a joke. It's a complaint, it's a truism, it's whatever the poet wants it to be in this blast. And in the hands of an author of the quality of Margaret Atwood, so again, how do I talk about this? What did it mean to me? Why did it resonate with me? This is an absolute full-throated recommendation to buy and read this book, if you haven't figured that out yet, right? And this was the signed first edition. If you can get it, why not? Really? Okay. But if you find it, it's probably out in paperback. I don't know. Or it will be. How do we talk about this thing? You're going to hear it scooting along the shelf. How do we talk about this thing? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to read aloud my favorite poems from this book. Clearly, it would be better coming from the voice of the author, but let's go. These are a few of my favorite poems from Paper Boat by Margaret Atwood. The slideshow. He carries reality around with him in a flat box, and the aunts and uncles in the living room, sitting in the dark, stare intently as through a window at the screen's bright square, looking for themselves. They have lost something. They have lost their past, and he brings redemption and all certainty back at last. There are the aunts and uncles standing, waving in front of the Brock Monument or above Niagara Falls or beside the flower clock, or level beds of red tulips stretching for miles and miles, anywhere on one of those trips, glossy as the aunts' red smiles. That is what it was like. They sigh, knowing that the sun shone always and the sky was deep blue like that. But the lights go on, and he carries reality away with him in a flat box. Further arrivals. After we had crossed the long illness that was the ocean, we sailed upriver. On the first island, the immigrants threw off their clothes and danced like sandflies. We left behind one by one the cities rotting with cholera, one by one our civilized distinctions, and entered a large darkness. It was our own ignorance we entered. I have not come out yet. My brain gropes nervous tentacles in the night, sends out fears hairy as bears. The man's lamps are waiting. For my shadowy husband hears the malice in the trees whisper. I need wolf's eyes to see the truth. I refuse to look in a mirror. Whether the wilderness is real or not depends on who lives there. And here the untitled poem on page 150. You did it. It was you who started the countdown. And you, conversely, on whom the demonic number 0 descended in the form of an egg-bodied machine coming at you like a football or a bloated thumb. And it was you whose skin fell off bubbling all at once when the fence accidentally touched you. And you also who laughed when you saw it happen. When will you learn? The flame and the wood, flesh, it burns are whole and the same. You attempt merely power, you accomplish merely suffering. How long do you expect me to wait while you cauterize your senses one after another, turning yourself to an impervious glass tower? How long will you demand I love you? I'm through. I won't make any more flowers for you. I judge you as the trees do by dying. Rat song. When you hear me singing, you get the rifle down and the flashlight aiming for my brain, but you always miss. And when you set out the poison, I piss on it to warn the others. You think, that one's too clever, she's dangerous, because I don't stick around to be slaughtered. And you think I'm ugly too, despite my fur and pretty teeth and my 6 nipples and snake tail. All I want is love, you stupid humanist. See if you can. Right, I'm a parasite. I live off your leavings, gristle and rancid fat I take without asking, and make nests in your cupboards out of your suits and underwear. You'd do the same if you could. If you could afford to share my crystal hatreds, it's your throat I want, my mate. Trapped in your throat. Though you try to drown him with your greasy person voice, he is hiding between your syllables. I can hear him singing. The untitled poem on page 207. It was not my fault these animals who once were lovers. It was not my fault the snouts and hooves, the tongues thickening and rough, the mouths grown over with teeth and fur. I did not add the shaggy rugs, the tusked masks. They happened. I did not say anything. I sat and watched. They happened because I did not say anything. It was not my fault these animals who could no longer touch me through the rinds of their hardening skins, these animals dying of thirst because they could not speak, these drying skeletons that have crashed and litter the ground under the cliffs, these wrecked words. The Puppet of the Wolf. 1. The puppet of the wolf I have not made yet encloses my right hand. Fur stubbles my wrists. A tongue, avid, carnivorous, licks between thumb and finger. My knuckles bunch into eyes of opaque flesh, cunning but sightless. The wolf is transparent but visible. My daughter sees it. My right hand is the wolf. She laughs at its comic dance as it roars and piglet murders. The bones of my left hand squeak and crack in its grip, and its gray teeth, its lack of mercy. The last house crashes down. The wolf is on fire. My right hand is on fire. The wolf is gone. 2. Where has the wolf gone? He disappeared under the skin of my fingers. My scalded werewolf hand, which now restored to normal, slides like an ordinary hand past the seahorse and orange boat of the bath. This is a miracle. There is never any death. The wolf comes back whenever he is called, unwounded and intact. Piglets jump from my thumbs. My dying right hand, which knots and shrinks, drier and more cynical each year, is immortal. briefly and innocent. Together with my left hand as enemy and prey, it chases my daughter through the warm air and, muted with soapsuds, lifts her into the water. From notes towards a poem that can never be written, the arrest of the stockbroker. They broke the hands of the musician, and when, despite that, he would not stop singing, they shot him. That was expected. You expected the poet hung upside down by one foot with clothesline. In your head, you colored his hair green. Art needs martyrs. And the union leader with electrodes clipped to the more florid parts of his body, wired like an odd zoological diagram. If you don't keep your mouth shut, they'll choose the noise you emit. Anyone knows that. In some way, he wanted it. Reading the papers, you've seen it all. The device for tearing out fingernails, the motors, the accessories. What can be done with the common pin? Not to mention the wives and children. Who needs these stories that exist in the white spaces at the edges of the page, banal and without shape like snow? You flip to the travel ads. You're unable to shake the concept of tragedy, that what one gets is what's deserved, more or less, that there's a plot, and innocence is merely not to act. Then suddenly you're in there, and this mistake, this stage of this box, this war grinding across your body, you can't believe it. Not only that, he's in here with you, the man with the documents, the forms, the stamps, the ritual prayers, the seals, red and silver, and the keys, the signatures. Those are his screams you hear, the man you were counting on to declare you legitimate, the man you were always counting on to get you out. After Heraclitus. The snake is one name of God, my teacher said. All nature is a fire we burn in and are renewed, one skin shed and then another. To talk with the body is what the snake does, letter after letter formed on the grass, itself a tongue looping its earthly hieroglyphics, the sunlight praising it as it shines there on the doorstep, a green light blessing your house. This is the voice you could pray to for the answers to your sickness. Leave it a bowl of milk, watch it drink. You do not pray, but go for the shovel, old blood on the blade. But pick it up and you would hold the darkness that you fear turned flesh and embers, cool power coiling in your wrists, and it would be in your hands where it always has been. In the secular night you wander around, alone in your house. It's 2:30. Everyone has deserted you, or this is your story. You remember it from being 16 when the others were out somewhere having a good time, or so you suspected, and you had to babysit. You took a large scoop of vanilla ice cream and filled up the glass with grape juice and ginger ale and put on Glenn Miller with his big band sound, and lit a cigarette and blew the smoke up the chimney and cried for a while because you were not dancing. And then danced by yourself, your mouth circled with purple. Now, 40 years later, things have changed, and it's baby lima beans. It's necessary to reserve a secret vice. This is what comes from forgetting to eat at the stated meal times. You simmer them, carefully drain, add cream and pepper, and amble up and down the stairs, scooping them up with your fingers right out of the bowl, talking to yourself out loud. You'd be surprised if you got an answer, but that part will come later. There is so much silence between the words you say. You say the sensed absence of God and the sensed presence amount to much the same thing, only in reverse. You say, I have too much white clothing, you start to hum. Several hundred years ago, this could have been mysticism or heresy. It isn't now. Outside there are sirens. Someone's been run over. The century grinds on. Butterfly. My father, 90 years ago, at the age of, my guess, 10, walked 3 miles through the forest on his way to school. Along the sedgy, wet-foot shore of the brimming, eel-filled, rush-French, peat-brown river, leaving a trail of jittering black flies, his hands already broad and deft at the ends of his fraying sleeves. Along this path he noticed everything, mushrooms and scat, wild blooms, snail and iris, club moss, fern and cone. It must have been an endless breathing in. Between the wish to know and the need to praise, there was no seam. One day he saw a drenched log floating heavily downstream, and on it a butterfly blew his eyes. This was the moment, I later heard, that shot him off on his tangent into the abstruse world of microscopes and numbers, lapel pins, cars, and wanderings, away from the 10 square miles of logged-out bush lots he never named as poverty, and the brown, meandering river he always, in some way, after that, trying in vain to get back to. Thriller Suite. 1. Newsstands blow up for no reason, bookstores as well. You're clamped to a windowsill, gibbering with adrenaline as the light beam swings past you. Holy hell, you whisper. Those words are finally meaningful. 2. The woman you were certain loved you did not. Never did. A puckered heart she had. Testicle on a plate, 3 days cold. She used to cut your grapefruit for you, have a scotch waiting, knives and poisons on her mind. Now she's got sunglasses. Who seduced her? 3. Those girls manacled to the wall, you laughed at them in old movies. They used to wear torn jumpsuits. You thought they were a prop. But now they're everywhere. Naked from the waist down, pink, black, bruised purple. 4. Too many cars ruined, festooned with red and gray, vein glue, brain jelly, all over the upholstery. They'll never get the smell out. Whoever cleans up afterwards, it's an art. Nobody sees that part. 5. The older man in the suit, the one with the briefcase, the sneering one with the shaved head, you've seen him before. Your stern, mean father come back from the dead. His neck a snarl of sutures. He says, I told you not to. How waterproof are you? 6. Everything's suddenly clearer, though also more obscure. You don't have to love anyone. That eon's over. But how free you feel. How buoyant as you're floating from rooftop to rooftop, leaking time from your many punctures as the Glocks tick and tock. 7. Behind you there's howling, ahead an unturned corner. There's fur on your nape. There's fear. Wake up! Wake up! In all these dreams you're falling. And there it was, right? For bitter or better. Paper Boat, the selected poems of Margaret Atwood. Book number 21 in the 100 book challenge. Really a good one. Oh, I'm so happy that I bought this, and it moved quickly to the top of my to read pile, especially once I began this 100 book challenge. If I have to read 100 books before I buy any new ones, I want them to all be this good. And so listen, I've already finished the next book, which was the next random book, preview time. It was The Woman in the Dunes by Kobo Abe, which, wow, right? So these were 2 really, really great books in a row. You'll see a video for that as soon as I get to it, because it's been big deadline energy time. And come back soon as the big deadline energy period has softened. I will get to the next 100 book challenge video, and let's keep promising other content here at Fantasy Authors Handbook on YouTube. See you soon.